Social media has changed drastically in the last 10 years. I mean, so many things have. It's also been 10 years ago today since I graduated from film school. And when I saw that this date lined up with my posting schedule, I knew I had to do something for it. Immediately came to mind was how much has changed with social media and video creation in general in the past 10 years. From platforms that didn't even exist back then to platforms that sadly no longer exist. Do you know that 10 years ago, Instagram had just hit 200 million subscribers, and earlier this year, they hit 2 billion. Plus, two of the majorly obvious ones is there was no such thing as Reels or YouTube Shorts, let alone Stories. And we all know the list goes on and on of everything that's changed. This is why you don't film outside. To celebrate this anniversary, I wanted to share 10 lessons I learned 10 years ago that still apply to making videos and content today.
My name is Claire, and as I've already shared, I went to film school and since then have become a content producer for social media.
If you're looking for videos to help you feel less overwhelmed and become more confident with your content, be sure to subscribe for weekly videos that will help you do just that. Let's get on to today's tips. I remember one of my instructors saying, the more time you spend planning, the less time you'll spend filming and in post-production, like editing. I know I'm a planner, but having a solid plan and doing all of the pre-production work for content creation really does save you time when you go to film and edit. Take this video, for example. I've already changed locations quite a few times. Coming up with all of those moves and transitions on the fly, it would take me a lot longer to film than I'd really want it to. My lighting would probably change way too drastically for it to look consistent. Another take on this for content creators is taking time to actually create a solid content plan and posting plan. It allows you to follow through on just creating the content. Lighting is key. Having a well-lit video is one of the first steps to a more professional looking video. During school, I took 3 courses on it, so it's important. As a creator, you need to highly consider it. Also, as a creator, you probably don't have a warehouse full of any light source of any temperature that you can imagine with any stand to put it on, to put it in any place that you need it to be in. It's really cool. If you ever get a chance to tour or get a studio house, it's the light. I find it really fascinating. Of course, you can always purchase lights, but how do you achieve great lighting if you don't have the equipment? My favorite setup to achieve this is to have me, then my camera, and behind my camera, a large, bright window source that is lighting where I'm sitting. Natural light is one of the best sources of lights, but there are upsides to lights, like consistency. When I say natural light, I don't mean sitting in direct, harsh sunlight, though. That can create really dramatic shadows that you're probably not looking for. Always film a little test video and check it to make sure you don't want to move to a different location. Lighting is key, but audio is critical. You can get away with not the best of lighting, but if people can't hear what you're trying to say, they're not going to listen. Have you ever tried to watch a movie where you can't understand what the actors are saying? And I'm not talking a foreign language. I'm talking the actors are mumbling or it's really low volume where the action is really high. So you don't know what's going on minus all the explosions. People don't stay around to watch those very long. That's why one of my first pieces of equipment I ever bought was a lavalier microphone. From cameras to software, this applies to all parts of content creation. It's not what tool you're using, it's how you use it. This even comes to the software that you choose to use, whether that's editing or a scheduling platform. Don't get me started with editing and AI nowadays. It really is how you figure out how to use the tool that you want to use. This is also related to tip number 9. But what this also taught me is sometimes you have to try a few different platforms or tools to figure out what will work best for you. It all depends on the creator behind the screen, behind the camera, and how their brain works. Experiment and find out what works best for you as a creator. Something I'd love to know in the comments is, what is your favorite part of content creation and video creation? Is it the scripting and planning? Maybe filming? Do you like editing? It's not my favorite. Anyways, let me know in the comments and why. In writing and directing class, we were taught that good directors highly consider editing while they're scripting and filming their movies. You should do the same with your content. Doing this allows you to think of transitions ahead of time and how things will flow together or not, and where you might need some extra planning. Another thing I heard a professor say, definitely an editing professor, it was that movies are made in the editing room. The final decisions and lines and how you say things and what is included and what is not is decided in the editing room, no matter what was on the script to begin with. I feel like I have so much to say about scripting, but that's because I just did a video about this that's coming out next week, as well as wrote 2 blogs about it. So basically, if you're in need of anything with scripting, check out some of the resources I listed below. I didn't realize until writing this that composition is actually one of the few things that has some rules in it you should know about, even though one of the main things I learned in film school was there are no rules. But there are some rules that have been around way longer than 10 years that absolutely still apply. And you should know to help elevate and make your content look more professional. We are just going to list them. We are not going to talk about them today because I could talk about them for a while. One of them is headroom. You always have to consider your headroom. It's one of the best ways to make sure that you have professional looking content. And with reels and stories and YouTube shorts, different headrooms. Headroom does mean more than what it used to. There's a rule of thirds, which is one of my favorites to follow. Leading lines is another great rule that is an amazing way to make your content more cinematic and photogenic. And I didn't think about this one often until I broke it the other day, and it threw me off in the editing room. But the 180-degree line, filming with that to make sure to keep your viewer aware of their surroundings. Anyways, it's really fascinating. I wish I remember which professor said this, but it really could have been any of them. Best way to break the rules is to understand them first. If you're looking to elevate your videos or figure out how to create a little bit more visually appealing content, I highly encourage you to learn about any of those rules so you can use them or break them. Filming can get really frustrating. Sometimes it feels like once one thing goes wrong, it's the catalyst for everything else to follow suit. Whether it's having to fix camera angle a million times because you keep cutting your head off, which is something I just went through, or your lighting changes when you're filming outdoors consistently, or when you schedule 20 minutes for something that ends up taking an hour, it can be a frustrating process. Figuring out how to keep calm or bring the calm back is what's going to help you push through these times. After being on sets from music videos to yoga classes, I figured out a few tips to do this. Also having anxiety, I have to do this a number of times for myself, just in my personal life. Here are my top tips. Especially when you're just starting creating content, plan buffer time. Everything will take you longer than you expect it to. And if you finish early, you either get to gain back your time or have a bonus list of things that you can continue to film, but weren't completely necessary. This is a big one, probably the biggest. Music. Play music that brings the energy you want to bring to your video. 2 examples. I play high energy music when I'm setting up my equipment because I want to sound excited in my videos. However, I've filmed in the past with yoga instructors, and we would play very meditative and calming music. And the last thing is to breathe. If you're starting to get flustered or you want to quit, take a moment, take a breath. You worked hard to get to this point of filming and you already put a lot of time in. Don't let a few of those little moments of frustration build up and outshine all the work and effort you've already put in. That really goes for life though, doesn't it? But we're talking about content creation today, and I cannot tell you how much it applies to creating videos. From experience, the first few videos are pretty hard to make, but they get easier every time you make one. The first few videos, you might not feel exactly like this, like they're getting easier, but I promise you're learning so much that at least after the first few, they really will start to get easier. After a few times of writing scripts or setting up cameras or figuring out how to edit, or any of the other many aspects, it will get better with practice. I know I put practice makes perfect because of the cliche saying, but video creation will almost never be perfect. For filmmaking, it's really practice makes better. It so doesn't roll off the tongue like practice makes perfect, though, so that's okay. I believe it was an editing professor that said to always learn and be on the lookout for new technologies in the industry. I do not think that they could have predicted we could synthesize humans with AI and make entire videos without actually picking up a camera. A lot has changed in 10 years. I believe they were mostly referring to editing tools and softwares, but it also absolutely applies to filming tools like cameras and microphones as well, specifically for content creators, scheduling platforms, or graphic designers. A recent example of this is that I have been using the same editing system for over 10 years. And I just recently changed last month to a completely new system, and I am really liking it. I was very hesitant, but this software just works for my brain so much better. Always keep an eye out for new technology and tools that can help you on your journey, especially with the parts you may not enjoy. This last one isn't really a tip, but it's a perspective I learned in film school that I think is really important, especially for solo creators, to hear. Something that was repeated in every class that I took in some capacity was how many people it takes to make a video. Have you ever stayed to the end of a movie and watched all of the credits? Like all of the credits? It takes so many people to make a movie or TV show. Now, I understand that YouTube and movies and TV shows are different, but they require almost all of the same components that a movie requires, just a little differently. And even though content has started to head in a more authentic direction and not needing to be pristinely perfect or professional to get your message across, and viewers are okay with it, it still requires many of those aspects for you to be able to create videos. What I'm getting at, this is a job for many that you are left alone to do. If you're in the solo creator world like I am, it's okay for it to feel overwhelming and like it's too much sometimes, because it is a job for many. I encourage you to push through those times, figure out some systems that work for you, lean into your strengths, and get to a point where you can outsource some of that content creation. There are 10 lessons for this 10-year anniversary. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I hope I shared something useful for you. Let's continue learning in the comments and share your favorite tip down below. See you in the next video.